A 23-year-old man is behind bars for fatally stabbing his 19-year-old ex-girlfriend. At 2:22 p.m. on Friday the 16th of February, authorities responded to the Brookstone condo complex at 2507 Waterford Road in Lower Makefield Township, Pennsylvania, on reports of a domestic-related burglary. Investigators said that Jaden Kylie Battista was on FaceTime with a friend when her ex-boyfriend Trevor Weigel showed up unannounced outside her home and began banging on a door, trying to get inside. While speaking with Jaden, the friend heard her say that Trevor was able to get into the residence through the ground floor window. The friend heard a commotion on the other end of the call, followed by a thump, and then Jaden's voice became muffled, as if someone was holding their hand over her mouth to prevent her from speaking. The call ended, and the friend tried to call back several times, but the calls went unanswered. The friend then called 911, prompting the police response. When the first officer arrived, he saw the man, later identified as Trevor Weigel, standing next to a red Ford Mustang outside the home with the passenger door open. The officer saw Trevor chase after Jaden, tackle her to the ground and repeatedly stab her in the upper body. He then saw Jaden bleeding heavily from the chest and Trevor fleeing on foot. While the first officer rendered first aid to Jaden, a second officer ran after Trevor. Trevor stabbed himself on the right side of the neck while running toward Interstate 295. The officer eventually caught up with Trevor and tased him and took him into custody. Jaden was transported to a local hospital by ambulance, where she was pronounced dead. An autopsy performed the next day determined that she died of a total of 15 stab wounds to the neck and chest. Police body camera footage taken during Trevor's arrest showed him accusing Jaden of cheating on him and admitting he lost it. Following his arrest, Trevor was taken to hospital, where he underwent surgery for his injuries. A bloody knife was also recovered from the scene. Authorities said that Jaden and Trevor had dated for about 2 months and had recently broken up. Trevor is charged with criminal homicide, burglary, possession of an instrument of crime, disorderly conduct and harassment. He remains held at the Bucks County Jail with bond denied. 53-year-old Douglas Turrell is behind bars for fatally shooting his mother, 78-year-old Joanne Turrell. At 7:13 p.m. on Tuesday the 20th of February, authorities responded to residents at 16307 Coldwood Drive in Keystone, Florida on reports of an unresponsive woman. Joanne's daughter asked her neighbour to check on her mother. The neighbour agreed and went to her home and found Joanne's body covered with a blanket and called 911. When deputies arrived at the residence, they found Joanne deceased with at least one gunshot wound. Deputies discovered Joanne's son, Douglas, who also lives in the home, had locked himself in the bedroom with a gun. Officials eventually arrested him on suspicion of his mother's death and charged him with second-degree murder. He remains held at the Hillsborough County Jail without bond. Neighbour Ellen Henderson, who had seen Joanne just the day before, said, "I was shocked. I thought maybe she fell, but when I saw the forensic sheriff's cars, I knew it was more than just her falling." Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister said, "Our heart breaks for the friends and family of this woman whose life was not only tragically ended, but done so at the hands of her son. Joanne was celebrating her 78th birthday, a time that should be filled with joy and beautiful memories. Instead, we're now trying to piece together what resulted in that ending in such heartbreak," he said. On Monday the 12th of February 2024, 52-year-old Richard Crosslin pleaded guilty to abuse of his mother's corpse and public assistance fraud. On Monday the 30th of May 2022, authorities responded to 68-year-old Regina Crosslin's home at 315 Trade Street in Florence, Alabama, after a person asked to conduct a welfare check after not seeing or hearing from her for weeks. Officers were met by Regina's son, Richard Crosslin, and a woman, Amanda Phillips. Amanda tried to prevent the officers from entering the house. After eventually entering the premises, officers found Roslyn deceased in her bed. Investigators said it appeared that the woman had been dead for several weeks. Due to the advanced level of decomposition and a mummified state, officials said a cause of death could not be determined, but believed she died sometime earlier that month. Authorities said that Richard hid a corpse in the house for weeks so he could collect a public assistance money. He was initially immediately arrested on unrelated warrants, while Amanda was charged with obstructing governmental operations. Richard was later charged with abuse of a corpse and public assistance fraud. Court documents show Richard's plea agreement as a habitual offender, stating that he will serve 20 years in the Department of Corrections. His sentencing is due to take place at the Lauderdale County Courthouse on the 8th of April 2024. 28-year-old Aaron Jacob Wingerson is behind bars for sexually abusing an infant. On Thursday the 15th of February, Aaron was in his apartment in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, with a 3-month-old baby, while the child's parents were outside the building. The parents were on a FaceTime call with a phone they had set up in the room with the baby, when they saw Aaron starting to sexually assault the child. Their parents attempted to get back into the apartment, but they didn't have any keys, so they ended up kicking down the door. Police said that Aaron noticed the cell phone in the room and fled the scene, but officers apprehended him later that day. During an interview with detectives, Aaron admitted to the abuse and to having planned to do it before it happened. Aaron's charged with second-degree sexual abuse and lascivious acts with a child and was booked into the Lynn County Jail. He remains held on a $35,000 cash-only bond on the condition he has no contact with the baby or the child's parents. 45-year-old Corrine Starc and 39-year-old Shelly Goerdt faced multiple charges after they repeatedly assaulted a man and held him captive inside a home. At around 9:30 a.m. on Monday the 19th of February, authorities responded to Freedom Gas Station at 3017 First Avenue in Hibbing, Minnesota after a staff member called 911 to report a man had just walked in stating he had been kidnapped. When officers arrived at the scene, they found the victim at the front counter wearing tan pants and a black jacket with blood on his face and duct tape wrapped tightly around his wrists. The victim told authorities that he'd been duct taped across his mouth and hands by Corrine and Shelly at Corrine's residence, located a few blocks away at 212 West 37th Street. The victim immediately asked to go to the hospital, telling officers he was freezing. Officers said he appeared to be pale in colour and was visibly shaking. The victim said he escaped and came from a garage a block away, where he'd been hiding from Corrine and Shelly. While at the emergency room, officers saw the injuries to the victim's legs, along with red marks on his cheeks, and he said that Corrine and Shelly duct taped his mouth. Remnants of white adhesive from the duct tape were also seen in the victim's facial hair. Authorities did not reveal a motive or the relationship between the parties, but the victim reported that Shelly asked him to come over on the night of Friday the 16th of February. She then picked him up to take him to Corrine's residence. During the drive, Shelly told him that she was pregnant and that she had information about his father. After arriving at the home, Corrine asked the victim to take a look at her bathroom for an issue she needed fixing. When the victim entered the bathroom, he became suspicious when he saw black garbage bags all over the floor. He then pulled his phone out of his pocket, and the women took it away, telling him that he would not need it. They also demanded that he sit on the chair in the bathroom. They then tased him with a flashlight taser, to which he complied and sat on the chair. They then tied him up to the chair with duct tape, a rope and a chain. They also saran wrapped his upper body and arms, so he could not move his arms, which fully immobilized him. Authorities said that the victim was held captive for 3 days. During that time, the women struck the man with a flashlight taser on his face and legs. They also electrocuted him on different parts of his body. At one point, Shelly untied him slightly so he could walk. She then pulled a dark-coloured pistol out from her waist, aimed it at him, demanding that he walk from the bathroom to the bedroom. The victim said that Shelly told him if he didn't start moving they would kill him. He added he felt like he had no choice but to obey, and was tied to a bed. The man told police the women taped a phone to the wall to record him. They also played heavy metal music at a high volume, with preacher chanting Holy Scripture. When they turned the lights and music off, the victim saw his opportunity to escape. He was able to get his hands free by untying the ropes and chains, and fled the house while still dark outside. The victim said he hid because the women drove around in a van looking for him. He hid until he felt it was safe to enter the gas station about half a mile away. At 12:14 p.m. that day, officers executed a search warrant at Corrine's home. They encountered Corrine outside, but she ran back indoors and refused to leave, even when told to do so at gunpoint. She continually disobeyed officers' orders and said she would not leave until family members picked up the children inside the home. She eventually surrendered 19 minutes later. Shelly remained in the house despite police telling her to exit the home. She eventually did and was arrested. While searching the home, officers found a cell phone in a bedroom with Velcro glued to the back, along with a speaker with the name Escort painted on it. An unloaded 9mm pistol was found in a dresser drawer, and a bag containing matching ammunition was found behind a mirror on an adjacent nightstand. A rechargeable taser strike light device was found inside a woman's jacket. A purse in the jacket also contained a card and a prescription bottle bearing Shelly's name, and a permit to carry a firearm was discovered at the scene. Corrine and Shelly were arrested and booked into the St. Louis County Jail on charges of kidnapping, assault, false imprisonment and threats of violence. On Wednesday the 21st of February, The pair were arraigned in court and were released several hours later on $50,000 bonds. If convicted on the charges, they each face up to 40 years in prison. Their next court appearance is set for Thursday the 29th of February. The investigation into the matter continues.